Today on the Transplant Helper, I've been asked by a viewer to go ahead and weigh in on the opt-in versus the opt-out system of registering to become an organ donor. If you're not exactly sure what that is, or maybe you already have your opinion, you're just curious as to what mine might be, go ahead and stay tuned. Hey folks, welcome to the Transplant Helper. Today, my name is Jim Merle. Let me go ahead and ask you, if you're not already a subscriber to this channel, that you go ahead and click that big subscribe button, maybe even the bell notification right off beside that, and I will try my best to continue to provide you with content which I hope will help to advocate, educate, and motivate you as a transplant patient. Now, to today's topic, basically, let me say in the beginning, this can be a somewhat opinionated as well as a somewhat controversial topic, and that is whether or not I think, or maybe even you might think, it's better for us in the United States to be on an opt-in system as we are now, or an opt-out system of registering to become an organ donor. Now, if you're not familiar with exactly what that is, basically right now in the United States, we're on what's known as the opt-in system. And that means that if you choose to become one day, whether it be as a living donor or eventually as a dead or deceased donor, to become an organ donor, you can do that, but you have to register to do so. That is, you have to opt in. Of course, there's so many ways you can do that. You can do that face-to-face, in person, down at your local DMV. You can do that at some of these tables, the health fairs and such, where they have organ donation sign-up tables. You can do that online. You can even do that very simply and effectively, as I showed in the video about a week ago, via your iPhone. So it's so easy to become an organ donor if you desire to do that. And let me go ahead and encourage you. I hope that you will do that, because I've had the gift of life given to me nearly 5 years ago. I've got other people around me who are needing the gift of life, such as the t-shirt I'm wearing right now, Teen Jenny. That's Jenny Hanner, a good friend of mine. She's still seeking a lung transplant, and you might be her donor. So go ahead and sign up. Now, on the opposite of that, it's being pitched to us. It's already been put into effect in a couple of countries around the world, but it's being pitched to us in the United States that we move from the opt-in system and change over to the opt-out system. And that's very different from the opt-in, but the opt-out system basically means that as soon as you're born into this world as an infant, you're immediately assumed that you're going to be an organ and tissue donor. And unless you go down and make a purpose to opt out of that via the same or similar methods, online, that sort of thing, then you, at your decease, at your death, you are going to be donating your organs and or tissue. Now, the problem that some seem to have with that is they feel like that gives you no choice, or maybe at least takes away some of the choice that you have. Well, I don't know if that's a really good argument there, because basically it's just as easy to opt out as it is currently now to opt in. But the thing is, if everyone were opted in, with only a few being opted out because they manually went out and did that, would that not raise the number of potential organ donors in the United States, therefore raising the number of potential transplants? Well, as far as the numbers go, you would have to say yes. But there are a couple of difficulties that come into that. The main one, the only one I'll mention right here, is that some people see organ and tissue donation as something that is against their religion. And in the United States, part of what we basically pride ourselves on is supposedly being a nation that allows total freedom to practice your chosen religion. Now, some would argue that some of those rights have already been taken away, or they're being taken away, or this nation is not as free as it once was. You might be right on some of those points. But the truth is as a general rule of thumb, versus most of the rest of the world, there's more religious freedom here in the United States than there are in other places, other countries, other nations, other continents. There's more religious freedom here. So yes, it is true that an opt-out system would make it more difficult for people who are trying to practice the freedom of religion, which for them may include not being an organ donor. It might make them more difficult for them to practice that, because you see, then they would have to take the time, make the effort to go in and deregister or opt out each and every person who's born in that family and supposedly going to grow up in that religion. And so that's part of the argument that comes out there as to why one system may not need to be used. They claim it takes away our freedom of religion, and in some cases may even assume that it takes away our freedom of choice. Well, I don't know that it completely does either. As I've said already, the opt-in system is really no more difficult to manage than the opt-out. But let me tell you one thing I know about both. Unless we take the time as a group of people, the transplant community being ideal for that, unless we take the time to make people aware of the great gift of life that they can one day be involved in, the lives that they might save, unless we put countless hours of effort into raising awareness about organ donation, neither system's really going to work. You see, you take the opt-in system that we're in right now. It's not working effectively, and part of the reason, not all, but part of the reason I believe it's not working effectively is because we're not effective in making people aware of what the gift of life is really all about. We're not being effective in making sure the world knows that there are a lot of misconceptions about organ donation. You know, the basic one that always comes up. You know, if I say I'm going to be an organ donor, then if it comes to push and shove and I'm there in the emergency room and you know, my life is in the balance, they're not going to save my life because they're going to see me as nothing more than a donation. They're going to see my body as worthless with life and see it as being more important in death. No, that's absolutely not true. The life-saving techniques and tactics and procedures that are going to be done on you in an emergency room or a hospital or a life-saving situation out on a city street are going to be exactly the same whether you're an organ donor or not. And please don't fall in the group of people who see that as a truth and don't understand that that is simply a misnomer. It's a misconception. But at the same note, even if we as a people choose, and we would have to choose to do it maybe by a vote, if we choose to become an opt-out nation, if we don't make people aware of the importance of organ donation, the impact that it has on those who eventually potentially become the recipients, then it makes no difference, because then everyone who goes down to the DMV or picks up their iPhone or goes on their computer, they're just going to take the opportunity to say, you know what, I don't want to be a donor. Let me go ahead and click a few buttons, fill out a form, and I'll opt out right now. And see, the problem with that is maybe potentially those people have not yet been educated. Maybe potentially those people have not yet been motivated to become an organ donor. So in my way of seeing things, and I'm not making a real argument here, but whether we go with the opt-in system that we're on now or the potential opt-out system that may be down the road if we choose it as a nation, that will make no difference if we're not willing to put the time into education. That includes TV commercials, radio spots, internet advertisements. It also includes people like you and me hitting the roads, hitting the highways and byways, and making people aware of the great gift of life they can offer. So here's my challenge to you. Whether you believe in an opt-in system as we have now or the potential of an opt-out system that we may one day have, it makes no difference. Do your part to educate those around about you, your family members, your friends, your neighbors, your co-workers. Go ahead and tell them about the great possibility, the opportunity, the gift of life that's possible if they'll only be caring and loving enough to give that gift. I appreciate your time, and until next time, please stay stronger, friends.